They made a commitment, they need to fulfill it.
Tonight, members of Winnebago Area Health Authority are in Ottawa to make sure the federal government keeps a promise of a new hospital in Moosonee, Ontario.
You know, it's an honor to be able to speak my language, and Shiniwan, also known as Ojibwe, to speak in the Ontario legislature for the first time.
An Ontario MPP is set to make history this week.
Public dollars are being put towards it in a way that's not effective or efficient, and yet there's a huge need.
And the Northwest Territories has released their 2024 budget. Good evening, I'm Chris Anashkate. Welcome to APTN National News. After more than 9 years of protests by the mother, an inquest begins today in Regina in the drowning death of a 14-year-old Indigenous high school student. According to a coroner's report in May of 2015, Haven Dubois left his school in East Regina to smoke cannabis with his friends. He walked away from their vehicle and was last seen by a creek east of the school. He was later found unresponsive by his mother in waist-deep water in that creek. The provincial coroners ruled drowning was the cause of death, with cannabis playing a factor. From the beginning, Dubois' mom, Rochelle Bear, has disputed that decision. She believes foul play was involved and a proper investigation was never done by the Regina Police Service. After years of protests and cross-country awareness walks, her work has finally paid off with this inquiry. It runs this week at the Royal Hotel in Regina. It has been 3 years since 215 anomalies were discovered at a former residential school in Kamloops, BC. APTN's Tina House takes a look back at what's happened since that horrific discovery.
On May 27, 2021, Kamloops Tisawepam announced they had discovered 215 anomalies suspected to be unmarked graves. That news shocked the world, and this impromptu memorial was started outside of the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. Visitors from around the world descended upon Kamloops to come pay their respects. Many of them also residential school survivors who had their own horrific tales of how they barely survived. In June of 2021, we met up with the late Stanley Paul Sr. In 1957, he was forced to attend the residential school in Kamloops. For Stanley, he, along with thousands of others who were forced to attend these houses of horror, the physical, mental, and sexual abuse they endured has left deep imprints of trauma that has never really healed, despite the years that have gone by.
Were you surprised when you heard the news about the discovery here?
I knew this long time. I knew this long. I know that way back. I know where it is.
Did you think you had maybe some friends that were part of the ones that were found?
Yeah, right over here. By the school over here, there's a couple of girls over here I know, and I knew them. My nieces, my cousins died over here. And that's where you used to have them apples right over here a long time ago. I remember that.
Grand Chief Stuart Phillips says what happened in Kamloops inspired other nations from across Canada to start their own searches.
We went from the discovery of 215 unmarked graves at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School site to thousands of unmarked graves right across the country. And that continues. At this point in time, more and more First Nations are organizing themselves to investigate the sites where there are residential schools in their territories.
And for Kamloops Tisawepam, it's been 3 years since the discovery, and they released this statement. While the number 215 has become a symbol of the children lost at the Kamloops Indian Residential School, it's important to recognize that it represents far more than a numerical figure. It stands for the countless spirits of children who never had the chance to return home from residential schools from all across Canada. Grand Chief says there is much more work to be done.
I'm proud of the resilience of our people, that in spite of this horrific genocidal reality, First Nations people across this country are continuing to progress.
To Kamloops to Sequepum have yet to release further details about when excavation will take place to identify the anomalies discovered. Tina House, APTN National News, Vancouver.
Delegates from the Winnebago Area Health Authority are in Ottawa this week. They want the federal government to live up to an agreement signed in 2007 to fund a new hospital in Moosonee, Ontario. Here's Annette Francis with that story.
Or WAHA were supported by First Nations leaders as they spoke with media at the Assembly of First Nations head office. Lynn Innes is the president and CEO of WAHA. She said the 75-year-old Winnebago General Hospital has long surpassed its intended lifespan.
They made a commitment. They need to fulfill it. We've been a good partner. The the provincial ministry has been a good partner. So the feds need to show up and fulfill their commitment.
In 2007, the federal government signed a framework agreement to fund 45% to build a new health campus, including a new hospital on Moose Factory Island. The projected amount required from Ottawa is over $1 billion. Dr. Elaine Ennis said the hospital serves 5 coastal communities on James Bay, but it struggles with providing specialty services.
We can no longer provide obstetrical care because we don't have the health human resources, which means that the furthest community, which is Peawanuck, they have to leave their community and fly all the way to Kingston so that they can have a baby. You know, this service should be available in our own hospital, in our own community.
Chief Peter Wesley of Moose Cree First Nation says Canada has an obligation to the First Nations of Treaty 9.
You have my formal invitation as Chief of Moose Cree to come to Moose Factory and see this hospital and the deplorable condition that it's in. It simply cannot stay as this going forward. This would not be tolerated in any other urban community. This would not be tolerated in Ottawa.
APTN contacted Indigenous Services Canada for comment, but did not receive a response by airtime. Annette Francis, APTN National News, Ottawa.
An Indigenous legislature is set to make history in Ontario this week. Ontario NDP MPP Saul Mamakwa will rise in the chamber on Tuesday to ask a question in OG Cree. His family, friends, and elders will be watching from the gallery. This is the first time the Ontario legislature will allow a language other than English or French to be used. Mamakwa is the only First Nation legislature at Queen's Park in Ontario. The moment comes decades after he was punished in a residential school for speaking his own language. Saul Mamakwa spoke with me earlier today about what it means for him, his mom, and what question he will ask in the chamber.
You know, it's an honor to be able to speak my language, and Shiniwan, also known as OG Cree, to speak in the Ontario legislature for the first time. I'm really excited about it, but also I'm really deeply moved by it. You know, it's very monumental for me, just because, you know, for a long time, Indigenous languages across the country, you know, for so many decades have been, we've been not allowed to speak. For example, in that case, you know, when we talk about Indian residential schools, when, you know, when we were punished, when we were, others were punished for speaking their native tongue. And that's very monumental. It's, you know, it's going to be, you know, an honor to be able to do that. I think it's, you know, it's my mom's birthday tomorrow. She'll be 79, and that's certainly an extra added gift to her for her 79th birthday. The age of my mom and the need in the north. It's going to be regarding elder care. It's regarding long-term care for the people of Kiwetinoong, and this is for them, not just First Nations people, but also the people that live in Sulikout, the seniors, the elders that live in Sulikout, where we do not have to move far. So I'm hoping, you know, I get a commitment to finally build the new long-term care facility that is so needed, so needed.
We'll be watching tomorrow, Saul. Cuts, expenditures, and revenues, that was just part of this year's Northwest Territories government budget, which was recently presented in the legislature. Our reporter Charlotte Morit-Jacobs brings us the specifics and what implications this will have for the Dene, Métis, and Inuit north of 60.
The closure of a jail, job cuts, savings in office leases, and even using the printer less. These are some of the cost-cutting measures the Northwest Territories government says they'll implement. On May 24th, Finance Minister Carolyn Wozniak tabled the 2024-2025 operating budget. The operating surplus sits at $294 million, with $2.6 billion in revenue and $2.22 billion in spending. This year will see $48.4 million in cuts across departments. As with the last few budgets, the NWT is creeping closer to the debt ceiling. Total debt is expected to reach $1.6 billion. That's just shy of $1.8 billion cap they can receive from the feds. So where will all the savings come from? One way of saving $2.7 million is with the closure of the men's jail in Fort Smith, which had more staff than inmates. The building may be repurposed into a wellness center.
But they're all very well trained. We don't want to lose people. And it's an opportunity when you have multiple Indigenous governments from every region asking for the opportunity to have a greater lead, to look together and say, we have this wonderful piece of infrastructure. We have staff. It's being underutilized right now, and public dollars are being put towards it in a way that's not effective or efficient, and yet there's a huge need.
The budget proposes cutting 91 public sector positions, reassigning positions that are currently filled. Other cost-saving measures proposed: $1.6 million in saving from infrastructure leases, $900,000 from discontinuing a midwifery expansion program, and $300,000 in printing costs. The minister also commends input from 900 public servants who submitted more than 1,800 suggestions on how to increase efficiency and revenue.
Or that employees emphasized was highlighted, was literally highlighted in blue to all of us so that we knew that feedback and where it had come from. So it really was quite front and center. And some of what was suggested, again, not being ribbon cutting, like one of my sort of favorite things is fleet management, is actually having consolidated fleet management, and that was highlighted from staff. What does it mean over? I'll get to your question now. But what does it mean in terms of the system?
With the closure of Diavik Diamond Mine in 2026 and the NWT's reliance on public service jobs, the minister says diversification is key.
I don't even want to venture a guess as to how many budgets and how many years and how many assembly cycles there's been efforts to sort of quote unquote force a diversification of the economy from government to the private sector. The private sector is the best placed entity to diversify the private sector, not. The government can't create an economy or create a sector. We can be there to fill gaps.
Wozniak says more money into housing will help attract and maintain workers. The budget cites diversification with new money for resource extraction projects, commercial fishing, tourism, and film. MLAs will discuss the proposed budget and vote before the end of spring session on June 13th. Charlotte Morit-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to see here, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. And to read and watch our stories you may have missed, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Hit the follow or like APTN News button to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We have to take a quick 3-minute break, but when we return, we'll tell you how a certain street in Regina is getting more attention for all the wrong reasons. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A new Senate report is calling on the federal government to launch an aggressive campaign to revitalize Canada's dormant seal industry. APTN's Fraser Needham has that story from Ottawa.
At a press conference in Ottawa this week, Senator Fabian Manning acknowledges it will be an uphill battle, but says it is Canada's responsibility to reestablish export markets for sealed products.
There's opportunity there, but it has to be driven by the Canadian government. These are international discussions. We talk about international trade, even with our partners in the United States, and the opportunities, with the 350 million people on our doorstep.
Manning is part of the Senate Committee on Fisheries and Oceans. It released a new report on the sealing industry, how decades of anti-sealing campaigns led to export bans of sealed products around the world, decimating the industry. The study makes 9 recommendations to revive the sealing industry, including implementing sustainable seal management strategy within 6 months, establishing a seal study center of excellence, and working with Indigenous governments and industry to formulate a national education campaign that accurately portrays seal harvesting. Senator Brian Francis is of Mi'kmaq heritage and also sits on the Senate's Fisheries Committee. He says Inuit and First Nations people have practiced sustainable seal harvesting for generations.
Inuit and First Nations have harvested seals for subsistence purposes for thousands of years. The traditional harvest has been central to our cultures and way of life for generations, far longer than the commercial harvest. The relationship between our communities with sealing is deep, meaningful, and respectful, and something that should be preserved.
Manning says dispelling misinformation by anti-sealing lobby groups is one of the major challenges.
There's a widespread misconception that baby seals are harvested in Canada. It hasn't happened since 1987. It's illegal in Canada to harvest harp and hooded seal pups. But when you go out and you see the anti-sealing propaganda, they show harvesting of seal pups. It's a lie. It's a falsehood.
Francis agrees it is time to set the record straight on the industry.
Important that that be reversed now, and that we start looking not to villainize those that are harvesting proper methods in terms of seals, and it's just another process.
The report also calls on the government to withdraw charity status and tax advantages to groups who promote inaccuracies against the sealing industry. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
It has been an on and off discussion in Regina for more than a decade, and now 2 councillors have brought forward a motion to City Council calling for Dudney Avenue to be renamed as soon as possible. Councillor Andrew Stevens and Councillor Daniel LeBlanc brought forward the joint motion Wednesday. The councillors say the street named after Edgar Dudney honors a historical person who was directly responsible for the development and administration of harmful policies towards Indigenous people, including the establishment and oversight of residential schools and Canada's reserve system. Dudney also withheld food rations, which resulted in starvation in Indigenous communities. Regina Mayor Sandra Masters says the name could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and 2,500 businesses and residencies will be impacted. Councillor Stevens says changing the name is long overdue, and it simply can't be left on the back burner any longer.
I think the fact that some folks are so resistant to it because they don't want to have these conversations makes it important. I'd say that this is fairly low-hanging fruit. If we cannot confront a name and changing placards and letterhead, I think it really does question our collective commitment to reconciliation, what it means. Nobody's erasing history. We should talk about Dudney, but does he deserve a place on that street is another question. I'd say no.
Since 2016, Regina resident Jolie Big Eagle Kakwetaway also called for the street to be renamed to Buffalo Avenue as an act of reconciliation. City Council will debate the motion in a few weeks' time. Are you good at telling what the weather is and want to be on TV to do it? We'll tell you more in less than 3 minutes' time. Stick around. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Cute baby alert. Grandpa sent in this picture of the family's newest addition. A big welcome to Kai Lily Alodi Moore, granddaughter to APTN editor Wilfred Moore, born on May 13th to Jenna Presley. To be our next photo of the day, send us your pictures to share at aptn.ca. That's a cute baby. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Newfoundland and Labrador, St. John's 16, PEI 17 in Charlottetown. Inujuak 3, La Grande River 18. In Val d'Or, 16. Quebec City, 19. Southern Ontario, Peterborough, 18. London, 19. Northern Ontario, Timmins, 16. Sioux Lookout, 14. Northern Manitoba, Churchill, 12. Thompson, 15 with sun. Southern Manitoba, Princess Harbour, 13. Winnipeg, 17 with rain. Southern Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, 27. Regina, 24. Northern Saskatchewan, Stony Rapids, 22. Meadow Lake, 26. Northern Alberta, High Level, 20. Peace River, 17. Southern Alberta, Edmonton, 24. Lethbridge, 29. Southern BC, Kamloops, 18. Bella Coola, 14. Fort Nelson, 18. Smithers, 15 with cloud. Dawson, 16. Watson Lake, 14. Yellowknife, 15. Norman Wells, 20. Sax Harbor, 14. Inuvik, 6. Baker Lake, 6. Chesterfield, 5. Arctic Bay, -1 with rain. Igloolik, 0 with rain as well. To south of the border now, where Kentucky's governor has declared a state of emergency after a tornado ripped through much of the state, killing at least 4 people and causing widespread destruction. Homes have been reduced to rubble, cars overturned, trees uprooted, and hundreds of thousands were left without power after a series of storms swept through Kentucky and other parts of the southern U.S. over the weekend. At least 21 people across 4 states were killed. Forecasters are warning of more severe weather ahead. Kentucky's governor says it could take days to restore the power. Some areas across the country received some interesting weather this weekend, including a late spring snow. For our first APTN News Weather Spotlight, Wilfred Moore sent in this weather report while out fishing on Winnemucca Lake, Ontario.
Hi, I'm Wilfred Moore, coming to you from Winnemucca Lake, Ontario. I'm originally from Hollow Water. I'm here for the weekend, and as you can see in the background, it is a gloomy, cloudy sky. It is only 4 degrees outside. We just flew over Kingfisher Lake not too long ago, and it had some snow there, so it's still snowing up here in the north in some places. Other than that, it's a good day for fishing.
And who says Wilfred doesn't do any work around here? That's a running joke in the newsroom. If you want to be featured as our next Weather Spotlight report, visit aptnnews.ca/weather spotlight to submit your video. We'd love to put you on TV. And that is your APTN National Newscast for this Monday, May 27th. We'll be back again for your midday newscast tomorrow. From everyone here in our News HQ in Winnipeg, hi miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching.